Some parents walk into a pediatric clinic convinced their toddler's rash is a government plot because some influencer with a ring light said so. And if you think that's the peak of medical chaos, oh no, we're just warming up. 1. A pediatric clinic receptionist once watched a mother storm in waving her phone like it was a legal document, demanding the doctor reverse the algorithm's decision because TikTok had diagnosed her child with a rare glow-in-the-dark vitamin deficiency, which, shockingly, is not something the human body does unless the kid swallowed a highlighter. The mother insisted TikTok creators with millions of followers can't possibly be wrong because that many people wouldn't believe something inaccurate, boldly overlooking several centuries of human foolishness. When the doctor gently explained that the child simply had dry skin, the mother accused the clinic of gatekeeping glowing health and demanded a specialist who believes in modern science, like influencers do. The kid, meanwhile, was happily peeling a sticker off the exam table, the only person in the room displaying functional brain activity, while the mother threatened to report the clinic to the FDA, NASA, and possibly Hulu. 2. A father once dragged his kid into a pediatric visit, insisting the boy had digital addiction withdrawal syndrome, a phrase he proudly invented after watching a 30-second TikTok stitched over Minecraft footage. His evidence was that the child blinked slowly twice that morning, which he claimed was a neurological crash caused by limiting screen time too suddenly, like the boy was some sort of human iPad overheating. The actual issue was that the kid was tired because the same father had kept him up until midnight, ranting about this hypothetical syndrome while Googling symptoms he didn't understand. When told the boy was simply exhausted, the father demanded an MRI, a CAT scan, a vitamin drip just in case, and a letter excusing him from school because fatigue is a medical emergency in my household. The clip he referenced? A teenager in sunglasses recording from a bunk bed while eating dry cereal straight from the box. Truly, the face of modern medical research. 3. A mother marched into a clinic furious because her toddler's fever hadn't disappeared instantly after she placed a sliced potato in the child's sock, a home remedy she learned from a TikTok creator who also sells crystals, crocheted frog hats, and questionable tax advice. When the fever naturally persisted, she accused the clinic of interfering with the spiritual conductivity of root vegetables by administering evidence-based medicine 8 months earlier during a different visit. The doctor explained, very carefully, that potatoes cannot extract illness from the body, which prompted the mother to ask if it was maybe because the potato wasn't organic enough. She then demanded a refund for the potato she used, as if the clinic had harvested it. Meanwhile, the toddler's fever broke on its own, because biology, causing the mother to smugly declare the potato had worked eventually, proving that in some households, logic is optional and carbs remain undefeated. 4. A pediatric nurse once had to explain to a parent that their child's runny nose was not, in fact, the first sign of nanobot infiltration, a phrase the parent repeated with the confidence of someone who had watched one conspiracy video while folding laundry. According to the parent, TikTok claimed cold symptoms meant a child's immune system was uploading firmware, which is both technologically impossible and medically illiterate. They demanded the clinic perform a magnetism test, which involved holding a refrigerator magnet to the child's arm to check for metallic activity. The magnet fell immediately because gravity still works even when critical thinking doesn't. When reassured that the child simply had a cold, the parent accused the clinic of being too old-fashioned to detect modern illnesses. The child's only concern during all of this was getting the sticker he'd been promised, proving he had the healthiest priorities in the room. 5. A parent burst into a triage room, insisting her baby had toxic milk syndrome because she watched a TikTok claiming that formula made from anything other than goat milk rewires a child's DNA into something darker. There was no definition of darker, but she whispered it like she was revealing a spoiler from a horror movie. She wanted the clinic to scan the baby's molecules, whatever that meant, and threatened to switch providers if they couldn't produce a DNA vibe check on the spot. The doctor explained that the baby was gassy, a condition older than recorded history, which only enraged the mother further because the TikTok girl with the gorgeous hair said gas is just the first sign of irreversible mutation. Meanwhile, the baby burped loudly enough to invalidate the entire argument, but the mother interpreted it as a cry for ancestral goat nutrients. The clinic recommended gripe water. She recommended prayer. 6. A father insisted his toddler had silent bone decay, a terrifying-sounding condition he pulled straight from a TikTok creator who films medical advice from the front seat of a parked car, the universal habitat of misinformation. The child's supposed symptoms were that he walked funny once after waking up and held a crayon too softly, which the father took as proof of impending orthopedic doom. The pediatrician demonstrated that the kid walked perfectly, held crayons normally, and had healthy bones. But the father countered with, then why did TikTok say otherwise? As if the platform were a peer-reviewed journal. He demanded an X-ray to confirm the absence of invisible fractures, which is not how anything works. And when the doctor declined, he announced that he would find a clinic that respects proactive parenting. The child left happily, swinging his legs like the only person present whose skeleton wasn't crumbling under misplaced confidence. 7. A mother insisted her daughter's minor cough was evidence of airborne gluten exposure, a concept she learned from a woman on TikTok who also sells moon water and performs palm readings for cats. The mother was convinced that gluten particles, like some villainous pollen, were floating through the atmosphere specifically to target her child's respiratory system. She wanted the pediatrician to test the air molecules in the clinic room and demanded an immediate lung cleanse, a procedure that does not exist outside of wellness retreats featuring overpriced eucalyptus steam. When informed that the cough was due to a perfectly normal viral cold, the mother sighed dramatically and said the clinic was stuck in the old paradigm of germ theory. Meanwhile, the daughter, blissfully unconcerned, was more interested in examining the doctor's stethoscope, the closest thing in the room to actual science. 8. A panicked parent arrived convinced their child had acute dopamine collapse, a phrase trending on TikTok thanks to a creator who claims to be a brain coach, but whose only credential is a ring light and misplaced confidence. The supposed symptom? The child didn't seem enthusiastic enough about breakfast. The parent insisted the clinic run a neuro-happiness panel, which sadly is not an established laboratory test, unless someone recently opened a diagnostic lab inside Disneyland. The doctor attempted to explain that children sometimes wake up tired, undercaffeinated by design, and uninterested in oatmeal. Unsatisfied, the parent asked whether dopamine could just fall out overnight, as if human neurochemistry were stored in a leaky bucket. The child perked up the moment someone offered a sticker shaped like a dinosaur, proving dopamine collapse was miraculously reversible when confronted with reptiles and adhesive. 9. A mother came in demanding the doctor treat her toddler's elbow because TikTok said minor joint clicking in children indicates karmic misalignment, a diagnosis allegedly deciphered by an influencer who describes herself as a meditation-based chiropractor. The clicking occurred once while the child was reaching for a cookie, which, shockingly, is a common cause of clicking and also of household chaos. The doctor demonstrated that the joint was entirely normal, but the mother argued that TikTok's sound-based diagnostic method was more accurate because it works off vibrational truth instead of biased science. She asked whether the clinic offered soul-level realignment, which presumably costs extra and requires incense. Meanwhile, the child continued reaching for the cookie during the explanation, producing 0 clicks but considerable determination, the strongest sign of health in the room. 10. A father arrived convinced his daughter had hydration resistance, a term he learned from a viral wellness influencer who drinks water exclusively from an amethyst-infused glass decanter and claims modern children are rejecting hydration out of ancestral trauma. The real issue was that the girl simply didn't like the taste of tap water and preferred juice. Shocking, truly revolutionary behavior for a toddler. The father demanded the clinic administer intravenous chakra hydration, which, if real, would definitely not be covered by insurance. The doctor explained repeatedly that children refusing water is not a metaphysical crisis, but the father insisted his daughter's aura looked dehydrated. Meanwhile, the girl chugged an entire cup of water in the exam room when offered a choice between that and no stickers, instantly curing whatever cosmic dryness she'd been experiencing. 11. A mother showed up insisting her son's mild stomachache was caused by parasitic energy worms, which she learned about from a TikTok creator who uses a soft voice and filters shaped like butterflies, giving her the aura of a kindergarten teacher possessed by pseudoscience. These imaginary energy parasites allegedly feed on childhood joy, which is ironic because the only thing feeding on joy at that moment was the mother's panic. The doctor explained the child was constipated, a condition as old as humanity and significantly less mystical than soul-eating worm forces. This explanation, however, was deemed suspiciously simple because real problems, according to TikTok logic, must always involve supernatural organisms. She demanded energetic deworming, which would presumably require crystals, moonlight, and a playlist called something like Vibrational Victory. The child immediately felt better after using the restroom, proving once again that nature's oldest cure still outperforms the internet. 12. A parent rushed in insisting their child had toxic screen fog, a TikTok-invented phenomenon claiming kids absorb radiation clouds from tablets, causing their brain frequencies to slow into marshmallow mode. The symptom? The child got bored during math homework, a condition affecting approximately 100% of children and 87% of adults. The doctor attempted to explain that boredom is not a neurological meltdown, but simply boredom. The parent countered with, "But TikTok said screen fog can crystallize," as if the child's brain were about to turn into a geode. They requested a cranial detox wipe down, which is not a real medical service unless the clinic suddenly starts handing out Clorox for the soul. The moment the appointment ended, the child sprinted to the waiting room toys with the speed of someone whose brain frequencies were very much not marshmallow. 13. A mother demanded emergency testing because her toddler sneezed twice in a row, which TikTok told her was the body's alarm signal for electromagnetic overload. She arrived holding a homemade EMF shield, consisting of a metal mixing bowl wrapped in aluminum foil, insisting the clinic place it over the child's head to block the frequencies. The doctor declined, primarily because the clinic prefers not to cosplay alien abduction. He explained that children sneeze when their noses are irritated, a groundbreaking discovery in her world. She then asked whether the clinic could reset the child's internal Wi-Fi, proving that metaphors should be handled with protective gloves around certain audiences. The toddler's biggest concern during all of this? Getting the mixing bowl back so he could continue hitting it like a drum. 14. A father demanded hormonal testing because his toddler woke up grumpy, which TikTok framed as infant cortisol collapse, a diagnosis created by someone who sells supplements shaped like pastel gummy stars. The father insisted the child's morning mood was clinically unnatural, as though toddlers regularly rise from bed ready to deliver keynote addresses. The doctor explained gently that kids have bad mornings because they're tiny humans navigating large emotions with underdeveloped coping tools, not malfunctioning endocrine systems. But the father argued that TikTok said the cure was microdosing sunrise energy, which sounded suspiciously like go outside, but far less reasonable. Meanwhile, the moment someone offered the child a toy truck, his cortisol mysteriously recovered. A miraculous act that apparently required no supplements, no sunrise, and no internet profits. 15. A parent stormed into the exam room whispering urgently that their child had developed vibrational instability, a phrase coined by a TikTok creator who diagnoses conditions using nothing but intuition and suspiciously dramatic lighting. The parent claimed the child's aura looked blurry, which is hard to verify without specialized equipment, such as imagination. The symptom prompting this crisis? The toddler tripped over his own shoe. The doctor confirmed the child was physically fine, emotionally fine, and spiritually indifferent. The parent insisted on aura stabilization therapy, which the clinic regrettably does not offer because it is a medical facility, not a metaphysical body shop. Meanwhile, the child, busy stacking tongue depressors into a structural masterpiece, demonstrated more stability than anyone else involved. The parent left disappointed. The toddler left triumphant with a sticker and a brand new wooden tongue depressor he called Steve. 16. A mother arrived clutching her toddler like a malfunctioning Fabergé egg and announced that the child was suffering from seasonal personality disruption, a TikTok-born concept claiming winter can rearrange a child's entire temperament like a moody IKEA shelf. Her evidence was that the toddler didn't smile during breakfast, which she interpreted as a cold weather soul slump. She demanded that the doctor perform a temperament recalibration, ideally involving a heated blanket, Himalayan salt, and a playlist of whale noises. The doctor attempted to explain that children sometimes wake up grumpy because they are tiny humans, not sentient weather vanes, but she countered with, "But TikTok said moods freeze in winter." Meanwhile, the toddler perked right up when handed a graham cracker, instantly thawing his allegedly frozen personality with the power of carbohydrates. 17. A father burst into the clinic, insisting his son had oxygen intolerance, a medical impossibility that TikTok somehow managed to trend for an entire week. According to the father, the child looked too tired for someone who breathes air every day, which was, in his mind, definitive evidence of respiratory rebellion. He asked whether the clinic offered customized atmosphere therapy, meaning a private room with altered oxygen levels like the child was preparing for Olympic training. The doctor calmly noted that the child had spent the weekend at a sleepover and simply needed rest, but the father insisted that oxygen is different now. The influencers say so. Meanwhile, the child yawned loudly, proving fatigue is not a cutting-edge disease requiring a personalized climate dome. 18. A mother arrived in a panic because her toddler had temporarily stopped saying a particular word, which she believed was the first stage of linguistic regression spirals, a term she pulled from a TikTok creator who diagnoses children between sponsored lip gloss ads. She demanded neurological testing to preserve the child's vocabulary trajectory, as if words were rare butterflies escaping into the void. The doctor explained that toddlers cycle through interests and frequently swap words out like Pokemon cards, but the mother was unconvinced and asked whether the clinic offered language stabilizers. The toddler then repeated the previously absent word loudly twice for no reason, proving the only spiral in the room was the parents. The mother nodded proudly, crediting the TikTok advice instead of spontaneous toddler whim, demonstrating that reality is optional when social media is involved. 19. A parent rushed in, horrified that her child momentarily preferred the left hand over the right, which TikTok assured her was a neurological red flag indicating hemispheric rebellion. The influencer behind this insight also sells homemade essential oils labeled with inspirational verbs, but the parent seemed unfazed by that detail. She wanted a full brain scan to confirm which hemisphere is planning the uprising. The doctor explained in the measured tone of someone accustomed to daily nonsense that toddlers switch dominant hands constantly. The parent frowned and asked whether the brain could be persuaded into cooperation with hand-strengthening toys. Meanwhile, the child used both hands simultaneously to steal a sticker sheet off the counter, proving hemispheric harmony was alive and well while the adult remained firmly at war with logic. 20. A father stormed in demanding an exam because his daughter was eating suspiciously slowly, which TikTok claimed was a sign of metabolic hesitation, a phrase that sounds like a refrigerator manual error message. He insisted that slow chewing meant her metabolism had paused for maintenance, which is not a thing unless human biology now runs on Windows 95. The doctor reassured him the child was simply distracted by a butterfly sticker on her cup. But the father wouldn't budge, accusing the clinic of ignoring cutting-edge nutritional timing science. He asked for a metabolic reboot procedure, which, shockingly, no pediatric office offers. The daughter resolved the crisis herself by finishing her snack at normal speed once someone turned the sticker around. In the father's eyes, this was a breakthrough. In everyone else's eyes, it was a toddler being a toddler. 21. A mother arrived genuinely distressed that her toddler's nap had lasted too long to be natural, leading her to believe the child had slipped into circadian inversion syndrome, a diagnosis born from a TikTok creator who records videos next to a lava lamp and refers to sleep as the body's nightly software update. The nap in question lasted 90 minutes, standard toddler procedure, but the mother insisted sleep should max out at 44 minutes to prevent neurological slowdown. She asked the clinic to wake the child up scientifically by using gentle medical light, as though pediatric offices have sunrise simulators ready for deployment. The doctor explained that naps vary and do not signal imminent neurological collapse, but the mother remained suspicious until her toddler woke up cheerful and immediately requested snacks, proving his software was functioning just fine. 22. A parent marched into the clinic with a complaint that their child's laugh sounded different, which TikTok warned was a sign of emotional frequency drift. The influencer behind this theory claims to diagnose emotions by listening to audio clips for 7 seconds before performing long-winded interpretations over ambient flute music. According to the parent, the toddler's laugh sounded too high-pitched, clearly indicating that their emotional frequency had floated upward. The doctor explained the child was laughing because someone made a silly face earlier, which is hardly grounds for panic. The parent insisted on a frequency balancing checkup, which unfortunately does not exist in any known branch of medicine. Meanwhile, the toddler continued laughing, thoroughly unbothered, demonstrating the only drifting frequency was the parent's grip on reality. 23. A mother dragged her child in claiming he had immune underengagement, a TikTok diagnosis based entirely on the fact that the child didn't get sick during a school outbreak. Somehow, wellness influencers concluded that not catching illnesses means the immune system is lazy, which is a fascinating misunderstanding of biology. She demanded immune stimulation treatments, whatever those were supposed to be, because her son should have caught at least something. The doctor explained that strong immunity is a positive trait, not a problem requiring calibration. The mother frowned as if this were an elaborate cover-up and asked whether they could coach the immune system into more active participation. The child, meanwhile, played with a toy airplane, perfectly healthy and blissfully unaware that his resilience was being framed as a medical shortcoming. 24. A father arrived furious because his child's cheeks turned rosy after playing outside, which TikTok told him was thermal dysregulation panic mode, a phrase that sounds impressive until you realize the creator uses a ring light bright enough to bake cookies. He insisted the child's circulatory system was overreacting to temperature stimuli, something that happens naturally when humans go outdoors. The doctor explained warming skin is normal, but the father claimed the clinic was ignoring cutting-edge biothermal research. He asked whether the child needed cooling patches for vascular recalibration, essentially fancy stickers. While the adults debated imaginary vascular emergencies, the child was happily drawing on the exam table paper, proving his circulatory system and artistic ambitions were working just fine. 25. A mother rushed in claiming TikTok revealed her toddler's belly button was too inward, signaling navel imbalance, a condition the influencer notes can affect core harmony and digestive rhythm. She insisted that belly buttons should sit at least 1 millimeter outward, which she measured using what appeared to be a ruler meant for sewing. The doctor confirmed the child's belly button was entirely normal, which only made the mother more suspicious because that's exactly what outdated medicine would say. She requested a referral to a navel alignment specialist, a profession that does not exist but should probably be avoided even if it did. Meanwhile, the toddler poked their own belly button with curiosity, achieving more scientific exploration in 6 seconds than the entire video that started this mess. 26. A parent brought their toddler in believing the child suffered from cranial overthinking, a TikTok diagnosis suggesting children can think so intensely their skull becomes energetically warm. The supposed symptom was that the child's forehead felt warm after running around outside, otherwise known as basic thermodynamics. The parent wanted a neurological cooling treatment, ideally involving mint oil and silence. The doctor explained the warmth was from exercise, but the parent countered that the child had been contemplating too hard about a cartoon episode earlier, proving the frontal cortex was overclocked. Meanwhile, the child's biggest concern was removing their own sock, a task requiring zero philosophical strain. 27. A frantic mother insisted her daughter had color processing fatigue because she seemed uninterested in a bright pink toy that morning. TikTok assured her this was a sign of sensory burnout, requiring chromatic reset protocols, which is a poetic way of describing nothing. She asked the clinic to test the child's color bandwidth tolerance, as though the girl were a malfunctioning television. The doctor explained toddlers simply lose interest in toys sometimes, but the mother insisted the clinic update her sensory drivers. While the adults parsed imaginary diagnostics, the toddler became deeply fascinated with a beige tissue box, demonstrating her sensory bandwidth was alive, well, and fully operational. 28. A parent stormed into the appointment claiming the child's hiccups were evidence of respiratory glitch syndrome, a term he heard from a TikTok creator who films in dim lighting for dramatic effect. According to him, hiccups are micro-breathing errors, indicating systemic instability. He wanted a lung scan to detect skipped breaths. The doctor clarified that hiccups happen to all humans and carry no deeper meaning beyond mild annoyance. The parent pressed on, asking whether the clinic had breathing recalibration machines, ideally ones with blinking lights. Meanwhile, the toddler hiccuped once more, laughed at the sound, and proved that sometimes a glitch is just a hiccup and not a prelude to respiratory collapse. 29. A mother insisted her child had growth stagnation vibes because the child hadn't grown visibly taller in 2 weeks, which TikTok assured her was a sign the body had paused its expansion cycle. The influencer who coined this theory also sells moon-charged bath salts, but that detail didn't appear to reduce her authority. The doctor explained that growth happens gradually, not in dramatic weekly episodes, but the mother claimed the clinic was ignoring subtle vibrational growth cues. She requested a growth activation plan, which she believed might involve affirmations, stretching, or possibly a vegetable the family has never heard of. Meanwhile, the child hopped onto the exam table, perfectly sized for their age, and far more interested in shiny medical tools than imaginary stagnation, functioning as the only person present with a stable connection to reality. And that's today's parade of pediatric chaos, proof the internet's confidence still outpaces its intelligence. Drop the dumbest complaint in the comments and hit like if you survived the madness.